Welcome to the Black Sparrow Media Internet Broadcast Network.
You are listening to Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a podcast about Linux, open source, and amateur radio, for everyone. Now here are your hosts, Cheryl, W5MOO, Russ, K5TUX, and Bill, NE4RD.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome. You have tuned into episode number 560 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the most terrific amateur radio podcast on the internet. This is our Weekender edition. It's the 122nd episode of the Weekender. Thanks for joining us here tonight. We appreciate it. And before we get into our randomly selected topic for the evening, we'll go ahead and introduce ourselves. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, K5. Wow. Can you tell I've been gone for a while? I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
I'm Bill, NE4RD. That's so funny.
I'm curious what was going to come after the K5, but K5 was it?
TUX was coming after that.
Oh no, we've been cloned. We're now the same person.
There you go. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're going to dive right into it here. I've got the picker wheel queued up. I've got it randomized as much as can be humanly randomized, I suppose, and I'm going to push the button and see where we wind up. All right, it's decided to choose cloning, forking, and submitting pull requests.
Oh, geez.
So,
Y'all have fun with that.
You looked at the list. You said it was okay. So.
Well, we'll have your comment first this time.
Well, that's fine. It's it's been a while since I've done a pull request, so I'm not sure. I'm a little rusty on that, but the whole idea behind this is if there's an open source project out there, it's usually hosted somewhere like GitHub, GitLab, whatever the new one Bill keeps seeing is.
Code Guru or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember which. Do they use Git, though? Is it still Git?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so the fundamental part of this here is if source code is published and can be built and is available for download, it's often done using Git, which is an application which allows you to do version control, basically, and distributed development. So you can have 10 developers working on a piece of code. Git allows you to have a central repository for that code. It allows people to check out changes, make alterations, push those changes back, merge things together, publish, releases, tags. You can have separate branches. You can have two people working on two different forks of the code at the same time. It can get very difficult and complicated very quickly. It's very powerful. And as the rule kind of goes, the more powerful it is, the more complicated it is. But in its simplest form, if some developers are working on some code and you want that latest and greatest code, you can usually pull it down from the Git repo with Git using the clone command. That will give you a local copy of the repository. And then you'll have the same code that the developers have, and you can then build it. Usually the repo will have installation instructions, readmes, license info, as well as the code itself. So usually you can just kind of step through the installation guide. Usually it's called installation or install.md, or there's probably a few other naming conventions out there. But depending on what the code is written in, it could be essentially /configure make install. It could be a qmake if you're using Qt and C++. It could, sometimes the repos don't even have to be built. They contain the binaries or the scripts that are executable straight in the repo, and you don't have to build anything. So that is how you can obtain open source software in some cases if you're not going through the repos. So what that allows you to do is, if you're the kind of person who's already a programmer who knows some languages and stuff and is using open source software, and you want to contribute to the project, you can do that using Git. And so what you would do is you would download the repo, you would, test out the software, do whatever. Then when you decide there's a bug or something you want to change or a feature you want to add, you can make changes to your local copy. And then you can request a pull. And what that means is you hit the developer team up and ask them to incorporate your changes into the main repository's code. And, that way they can decide whether they want to include it. And if they do, they'll merge it and publish. But what you do before you issue a pull is you create a fork, because you don't want to necessarily work directly on the main developer's code. You fork it, you make your own code, you publish it on GitHub, GitLab, whatever the other one is, and
Codeberg.
Codeberg.
I actually looked it up again because I was like, Code Guru sounds like a Microsoft thing, and of course that was. And this is Codeberg that I was mentioning the other night.
All right, fantastic. Codeberg. Hopefully we'll never forget it for the next minute. And then once you've created that fork, altered your code, and issued the pull request, then you'll find out if the developer says, "Oh, that's really cool, we can use that," puts it in the repo, and then so on and so forth. And then you just re-download the download the code from the main repo into your fork, and that way you're all in sync. So it's a pretty cool way. This is all like developer and programmer geeky kind of. So you kind of have to get your hands dirty with it. You got to go through some self-training, I would assume, and read the directions for doing all this. It's not that difficult, because I was doing this when I was working with my CXXII on the Winter Field Day logger. And I think he's incorporated and then removed and then replaced pretty much all of the code I submitted for pulls. But, a little bit of my code might still be in there. I don't know. But anyway, that's sort of one way to, participate in the open source world, is by writing some code that might fix or alter or upgrade or enhance an existing project. And you can use the fork and pull request to get your code out into the wild and distribute it among the people for all the great open source software projects that exist. So I'm going to let Bill see if he wants to embellish any of what I just said.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of people want to understand, I guess, the differences between branching and forking, and sort of what the difference and impact is. So generally, if the piece of software that you're talking about, that you're contributing to, hopefully, they have included a contribution file. So it tells you exactly how they expect contributions to be sent to them. Normally, if you already have access to the repo itself, meaning that you are a maintainer, a contributor, or a developer, or a reviewer of some sort, in theory, you technically can branch and push your code commits directly to the repo itself. But let's say you're a brand new person on a project and you want to contribute, you would fork it so you have a copy of the main branch in your repo. So it's under your control now. So this would be something you put on your particular login credentials in GitHub or GitLab or what have you. And that particular repository would be cloned into the same repository on your side, where you actually have permission to grant, to commit code against, to actually make commits, changes to the code. And at that time, you can do a pull request, or what I like to call a merge request, an MR, because it makes more sense. Because you can pull, you do a git pull into your own repo, and you can pull changes into your repo. So I think merge request, it makes more sense in my mind as to the actual operation, that after you've forked it or you have branched it, you're going to create a merge request to get merged back into the mainline repository. And that's what you'll do with either your fork or your branch if you're already a committer on the project. And both of them work equally as well. So if you're not a contributor, you would do a fork. If you're a contributor, you would do a branch. And then in either way, you would do a push to your branch. So it pushes back to GitLab or GitHub. And then you would do a merge request, which would actually show the differences between your branch and the mainline branch. And at that point, you would document the changes you made in more of a human readable markup. Although there are plugins that can actually read your commit log. Although I wouldn't really recommend it, depending upon how often you commit between changes, because sometimes you'll commit, run your test, and then if you don't have any pre-commit hooks on your GitHub repo and you've committed code that crashes the tests and stuff like that, you might have like a multitude of commits on your local branch that you want to squash, meaning reduce down to one single commit. So you'll see that a lot where you can squash the commits down to one commit and then actually redefine what that particular change means. You added a new feature or an enhancement instead of the 5,000 commits you made to make that enhancement. But essentially, that's the gist of it. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else to add to that. But like GitHub and GitLab all work exactly the same way. They use Git for everything. I think Codeberg is exactly the same. I'm just reading through some of the documentation as well. It also uses Git to do everything. Gitea would be another solution if you have your own self-hosted code repository and stuff like that. The only one I don't know about offhand, but I think it still uses Git, would be the Azure code spaces thing that they still use inside of Azure. And I'm pretty sure, that's Git as well. Sorry. Yeah, that's definitely Git because I just committed to Against One not too long ago. So that uses Git natively as well, instead of like what used to be Team Foundation? Is that it? TFS? TFS used to be the old standard, and then it was Visual Source Code Control, VSS or VSCS or something like that in the old Microsoft days. But essentially it all works the same.
All right, very good. Well, I'm pretty sure Cheryl's not going to have much to contribute on this topic. She hasn't exactly done a lot of open source development, or any. So we'll leave her out of that, but that's okay because her part of this is coming up next. So yeah, that's basically the outline of how Git and code commits and pull requests, which Bill wants to call merge requests, work. You download a software using Git clone. You make changes to it in your local branch, and when you're ready to submit it back to the project, you do your commit to your local fork, which can actually be local or it can be hosted on GitLab, GitHub, whatever. And then you do your merge/pull request, and if all is well, then your code gets merged into the master and becomes part of the universe of open source. So that's I think all we have to say about that topic. Really, I think we got a solid 15 minutes, and that's like the first time we've ever been sort of in bounds on that. So
nice.
All right, very good. Well, with that, we won't dwell on code commits and open source development for too much longer, and instead we will wander into the wide, wonderful world of hedonism, and we'll start with Cheryl, who's gonna, bring us into that world with food, as we always do, because, we all got to eat. So what good thing are we going to eat this time?
We're going to eat some soup this time.
Yeah, it's getting to that time of year, right? When soup is not verboten anymore. It's like fall time. We can actually have soup.
Right. Yep. It's fall, therefore soup season. And what's better than a soup that can be dumped and forgotten? I'm a huge fan of slow cooker soups because of that, and I'm a huge fan of tortilla soups. So If you want this soup creamy, add some heavy cream or sour cream into the soup. You want beans? Add some black beans. The soup is extremely versatile. And for this chicken tortilla soup done in the slow cooker, you need some cooked chicken. Rotisserie chicken is great for this. You can grab those at Walmart, fairly cheap. Some whole peeled tomatoes, some enchilada sauce, some green chili peppers, canned, of course, because who wants to waste time on fresh ones? Onion, chopped, garlic, minced, water, chicken broth, cumin, chili powder, salt, black pepper, bay leaf. Don't forget to pull that out, though, in the end. Some corn, frozen, is perfect. Canned, also perfect. You can use some cilantro. You can use some tortillas, or you can grab the off the like bacon bit aisle. You can grab the tortilla strips, because this is just, add-ons, decorative things for your soup. The rest of the recipe, of course, will be in the show notes. And for my mixed drink in Missouri, we joke that if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it will change. We're in the beginning of November right now. A few days ago, it was in the upper 80s. We're setting highs. Over the next 10 days, it's going to be anywhere from the 60s to the 70s. So it is getting colder, so warm drinks are always a plus as the temps slowly cool down. Maybe they'll be cold enough by Christmas for a hot drink. Anyway, mixing red wine and chocolate, I know, sounds a little crazy, is really good. So my recipe this time is for crockpot red wine hot cocoa. And for that, you need some semi-sweet chocolate chips, some cocoa powder, granulated sugar, kosher salt, whole milk, a whole bottle of red wine, some marshmallows, and some chocolate shavings. And these, of course, are for garnishments. And the rest of the recipe will be in the show notes. So if you're interested in either one, check those out.
Have you tried that before?
Yes.
Is it really okay?
The red wine hot cocoa is really, really good.
Really?
Yeah.
That just seems so bizarre to me.
I know. And there is actually, I don't know if it's still available. Russ, do you remember the name of it? The red wine chocolate wine? What was the name of that?
There's a chocolate cherry wine at Riverwood that we get.
No. This was like a red wine, chocolate wine we could get at Hy-Vee. But what was the name of that?
Oh, I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, no, I don't remember that. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it was like red wine with chocolate syrup in it, and it was really, really good. But we actually had the hot cocoa red wine drink at one of the wineries we go to in Kansas City. And I don't remember if it was Jowl or if it was Weston Wineries, but one of them had it and it was really good. So, and it sounds completely stupid and crazy, but the red wine doesn't come out a whole lot in the hot cocoa. You can taste it and you think, okay, there's no way I would put wine in cocoa, but it's actually really good. So I'm not a red wine drinker, but I will drink red wine and hot cocoa together. And yeah, definitely give me a couple of bottles of it. I'm cool with that. So
yeah, we've got a couple of I've noticed that like ports, like ruby ports, cream sherries, and we have a port made from Norton grapes here, and any of those reds, those like fortified reds, go great with dark chocolate. So
very interesting.
Yeah.
If you haven't tried a fortified red wine, or like a heavy red wine, something in the 14% and up category with some really good dark chocolate, you haven't really lived.
Well, you don't have to, but you don't have to mix those.
No. You just
with the cocoa,
right? You just
you just have like a chocolate bar and the wine together. But you could use like a $3 bottle of red wine and mix it with some chocolate chips, and it comes out really good. So, a friend actually used the and I don't know who has Trader Joe's / Aldi's. I'm sure most everybody does. But Aldi's has Winking Owl wine or something like that, and it's like $2.99 a bottle. And she was really big on doing the red wine with the chocolate chips. So yeah, it's crazy, but it's good. So
something to add to the list for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely the you have the kids over and they have snowball fights, and you have a crock pot of hot cocoa for them, and the adults have the boozy hot cocoa in the other side of the kitchen.
Very nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on from wine and chocolate, which, sadly, I guess we have to move on from wine and chocolate. But I'm going to be talking about something picked up last year in Kentucky, down in Bardstown, Kentucky. And this was the Bardstown Distillery's Bardstown Original, or Origin Series, not original, but Origin. Good gravy.
Have another drink.
Yeah, Bourbon Company Origin Series, bottled and bond Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. When we were there, this stuff was just coming out, and the only place I think you could get it at that time was at the distillery, but I think it is now in distribution. So Bardstown is available elsewhere. Bardstown has an interesting sort of history. They started out by barreling and aging other people's whiskey, and at the same while they were ramping up their own whiskey production, and now they're putting out their own stuff. So this is one of their own. And according to the Bardstown website for this particular project, it says, honoring tradition and authenticity, our Origin Series weeded, bottled, and bond 6-year expression presents the best locally sourced Kentucky corn and wheat grains. This expression features 20% wheat in the mash bill, creating a modern expression of beautifully balanced bourbon. So this is right up Bill's alley because it's a wheated bourbon, and I'm pretty sure you still like the wheated ones, right?
Oh yeah.
So
I thought it was pretty tasty too. So
yeah, I think my tastes are falling off from the wheated ones, and for some reason I'm not really sure. I used to really like them, like Larceny and stuff. But the wheated Larceny, and I still like the regular one, but I remember drinking the barrel proof Larceny and reviewing that on here, and not enjoying that much at all.
You're leaning more towards ryes now, right?
No. I mean, I like rye and everything, but I like more low rye bourbon, still straight low rye bourbon. So
Gotcha.
But anyway, the mash bill on this particular bourbon is 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley. Because it comes from Bardstown, Bourbon Company. It does come from Bardstown. It is bottled in bond, so it's 100 proof. Color on it is medium amber. The nose is simple but delightful, I guess. Cream, caramel, and citrus notes. Can't really go wrong with that. The taste on it is pretty good, too. For a 6-year, it still kind of smacks of being a little young. I don't know if it's just the char in the barrels, or I don't know, maybe it's just my palate on this particular day. But I noticed some what I would consider young notes, some of the sort of grassy, grainy notes. But also in there is cocoa, cream, muted peach, lemon, and salty toffee. So there's some stuff that's worth getting your tongue on. And for the finish, it's a medium to long finish with lingering notes of vanilla, honey, sugared peaches, and wood tannin. It's not bad. I think it's not as good as it could be for what it costs, because I'm pretty sure this bottle was about $70, if I remember right. And I've had a lot better bourbon for a lot less money, even on the weeded side. Larceny, one of those, because that's in the, upper 20s for an 80 proof, or 92 proof bottle of Larceny, because I think the standard one's 92. So, this is okay. It's fine. I think it's overpriced, and some of their other stuff is better, but this is the one I have. So I'll go ahead and give it an 87. Definitely sort of in the middle of the range for the stuff that I've had. And I look forward to see what Bardstown is coming out with, but I don't think I can recommend this one, especially at the price. But I am looking forward to whatever comes out next. So with that, I'll hand it over to Bill, and he's going to talk about some Lux Row.
Yeah, so we'll stay right in Bardstown. We won't go very far. But this is a Lux Rose 4-grain double single barrel. And my particular bottle is 57.5 ABV, which I think all of this series is. But you might have a different mix of which rye barrel and which wheated barrel you got mixed with. So my rye barrel was filled in 8.9 of 18, and the wheated barrel was filled in 8.14 of 18. And it's somewhere around $70 to $90. I don't think I paid much more than 70, but I see online that it sold at one time for almost 90 and is out of stock in a lot of places. So I think this was a limited release type product that maybe happenstance that Montana got it cheap for some reason. I don't know. I can't really explain it. Anyway, I pulled the notes from the bourbonguy.com because I'm terrible at this stuff, but I do like these notes. These are actually really good because I kind of agree with them now that I see them articulated. The nose, they says, is big red gum, if you can remember that. Toffee, dried grains, and oak. And yeah, that's pretty spot on. I have to say that. The mouth is spicy with a ton of cinnamon candy notes. Lurking beyond the prominent cinnamon is floral, vanilla, and oak. It's very spicy. I would say if there's anything off-putting about it, it's probably that. It does make a bit of a harsh taste right away, but like it is very smooth. I think it mellows out quite nicely, and probably like a drop or two of water in there probably would take some of that ultra spiciness out. Finish long, warm notes of cinnamon, caramel, floral, vanilla, and oak. Yeah, it's a nice drink. It's quite tasty. I don't know what kind of availability there is on this because it appears that it was a limited release. And if you go to Lux Rose website, you don't see this one on there. So this must not be technically available anymore directly from them. But if you can find a bottle on the shelf, I would say it's probably not a bad acquisition. It's definitely something that's a bit on the spicier side. Would probably make a real excellent old fashioned if you wanted something with like a nice spicy spiciness to be kind of balanced with that sweetness in the old fashioned. But as a sipper, yeah, it's a bit on the spicy side. But I mean, I'll drink it neat without a problem. So yeah. Try it out. It's a Lux Row 4-grain double single barrel.
Double single barrel. Okay. Double, single, triple, single, double barrel.
I mean, that's what it says. I mean,
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if there's like MGP or something like that too, because if you look at it, I mean, they said they started in 2018. So these would all be bottles that they started with. And that means they pulled them, well, I mean, in 2024, we're at 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but the distillate, whatever went into the barrels doesn't necessarily have to be theirs. It could have been MGP.
Yeah. On the back of their bottle, it says, nearly a decade ago, it started with an idea, a vision to become the leading producer of fine bourbons. In 2018, that dream became a reality when Lux Row Distillers opened its doors. Since then, Lux Row has mastered the art of crafting fine bourbon and has made its mark as a prominent stop on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. Did you go to this one?
No, I'm thinking we're going to try and go to Lux Row next year, just because we were on our way through, and Bardstown's like a little out of the way.
Yeah, it's a little south, right? It's like 45 minutes south of Louisville.
Yeah.
But if we're there an extra day, we'll definitely make a point to go back to Bardstown. So
yeah. Well, it might be one to see. It's pretty tasty. I mean, it is on the spicier side. So if you're not somebody that enjoys a nice spicy rye or something like that, this probably would not fit your bill. You definitely don't get that smoothness that you would expect from a wheated bourbon blend, for sure.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we went to Jephthah Creed, and I was actually really impressed with everything we tried.
Well,
vodka, rum, or vodka, whiskey, whatever. So
yeah, you should do a review of Jephthah Creed next weekend there.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah.
Well, you bought like 3 bottles of whiskey. I got a bottle of vodka.
Well, you can do the vodka because it's worth doing.
Well, no, it's totally worth doing. So
I just drinking this bottle of Bardstown, it just reminding me of last Saturday when we had a poker game, and I pulled my bottle of Stag Junior off the shelf, and I haven't touched that bottle in a very long time. And I poured myself some Stag Junior and was immediately, transported back to how amazing and incredibly drinkable Stag Junior is, and how tasty it is, even though the bottle I have is like 132 proof or something like that. And I was just drinking it neat. And it's just when I now of course I go back to that, and now everything again is like being compared to it. So
sounds like a Rossville Union thing, right?
Yeah,
litmus test. It's like every rye has to be compared on the Rossville Union barometer.
Yeah,
the bad thing is, I want to go back to Jephthah Creed and try more of their stuff, because everything we got, I was extremely impressed with, and we didn't try but maybe a fourth of what they offered, if we tried that much.
Yeah, no, there was definitely a bunch of stuff there, and not all of it whiskey.
Yeah.
So
there was vodka and moonshine and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah, the Old Forester 1920 is still a little bit better than Stag Junior, but I mean, those are definitely the two that I sort of judge everything against. So, all right, well, that's the end of our hedonism for tonight. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you're drinking this when you have the opportunity to enjoy some hedonism, we hope you definitely do it. And before we get out of here, since we don't have any announcements or additional feedback for tonight, we'll just send it back to Cheryl briefly to do our new subscriber, supporters, and live participants.
Yeah, well, this week we didn't have any subscribers or Patreons. For Facebook, the Ohio Linux Fest joined us. For Twitter, we had Peter Parker 15401. Instagram, we had Galpiva Alex. I'm probably butchered that. Mastodon, we had @Mark Beach. Nobody joined us on the mailing list. On Discord, we had M0TVT, KB3ORR, and KD0UUU, which was Tim. No one on YouTube, and on live chat, we had Steve KJ5T. Is that it?
That's it.
That's the whole list.
Wow.
Yeah. And Steve's like in everything these days. He's contesting and poding and daughter.
Yeah, he's everywhere.
He's just everywhere. Yeah. So.
Did you participate in sweepstakes this weekend?
No.
I tried to update not 1mm and it bombed. I was so sad. I was going to just play for part of the day yesterday, and I Pipex upgraded, and I think it hates my Python upgraded to 3.13. I didn't debug it any further, and I'm like, I guess I'm not contesting.
It's funny. I have the waterfall on my FT710, sort of always in my face when I'm working.
Yeah.
And I have it's generally on FT8, right? And I have it wide enough so that it can see down into the lower portion of the bands. It starts at about like 10 kilocycles up, from the bottom and up to about, the 74s where.
Oh, yeah. So you can see all the CW stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I'll sit there and all of a sudden something will catch out of the corner of my eye, and I'll look over and I'll be like, oh, there's a CW sprint going on, because it's like as soon as that happens, the bottom part of the band just lights up, and you're like,
yeah. Yeah. Almost participated a little bit, but didn't work out.
Well, next time.
Yeah, next time for sure.
All right. Well, that brings us down to the end of the show. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We really appreciate it. As we mentioned last week, if you have the means, please join us on Patreon or PayPal and help support the show and get us to different events next year. We'd love to see everybody. And, of course, a couple of dollars a month goes a long way to getting us there. We really appreciate it. And in the meantime, we hope you have a great week, and will join us for our next episode, which will be a deep dive. And we look forward to talking with you all again then. But in the meantime, this has been episode number 560 of Linux in the Ham Shack, the 122nd edition of The Weekender. And we're going to go ahead and let you get back to whatever it is you were doing. I'm Russ, K5TUX.
I'm Cheryl, W5MOO.
And I'm Bill, NE4RD73.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Linux in the Ham Shack. LHS is a community-sponsored podcast. Live recordings are Sunday nights at 8 o'clock Central Time. Our homepage can be found at lhspodcast.info. You can support the podcast via Patreon at patreon.com/LHS podcast. We're also on Discord, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Mastodon. Contact us via email at info@lhspodcast.info or via voicemail at 190954777469. That's 1909 LHS show. We also have merch. So until next we meet, remember to always heed your hedonism.